Thank you very much for still being there with us. Let's discuss power tariff now and the issues in the electricity generation and distribution sectors of the country. Joining us at this time is the General Manager, Corporate Communications of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, Oyebode Fadipe. Good to have you. Good morning and welcome, Oyebode.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thanks for having me. I hope you are hearing me clearly.
Absolutely. We hear you loud and clear. Also joining us is the President of the Senior Staff Association of Electricity and Allied Workers, Chris Okonkwo. Good to have you as well, Okonkwo. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians. Incidentally, I'm having broken lines, so audio, please.
Okay, just ensure that the focus of your device is on you, so it can be stable. Your shots seem to be shaking right now. But let's start with you, Oyebode. There's so much talk about increase in electricity tariff. Some discos are said to have issued a directive to that effect, although there's been a denial as well. What is the situation with the AEDC? That's the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company.
Well, thank you very much. The situation with AEDC is that we have not told anyone that there's an increase in electricity tariff because we don't have any directive to that effect. I think it's important to understand the fact that NEC has the exclusive right over the issue of tariff adjustment, whether upward adjustment or downward review. NEC has that exclusive right. No disco, and I dare say all over the country, has any power to increase the tariff. I remember very clearly that even the disco that is being purported to have issued a notice of increase has also issued a rebuttal saying that they don't have any hand in that information. So I think it's important to let the public know that there has not been any communication about tariff review, whether upward or downward, and that's exactly where AEDC stands.
Is there any discussion as to increment of tariff between the discos and the Nigerian Electricity Regulation Commission?
I will answer your question from two broad perspectives. One, on a general note, the issue of tariff review is a continual, is an ongoing discussion. And the reason for it is clear. Recovery from the market is a fundamental issue, or put in another form, liquidity of the sector is a fundamental issue that will continue to engage players at all times. Because all the indices or all the parameters that you need to generate electricity are affected by market factors now and again. And government has made that allowance available that in the event that there is the need to review the price of electricity, NEC has the power to go ahead and do that, looking at the micro and macroeconomic factors. So that one must be made very, very clear. So as to whether there is conversation, that is an ongoing conversation at all times. However, in specific reference to the current situation, we don't have any instruction whatsoever to say on this, raise the tariff by any amount of money, to the best of my knowledge. So, but again, it's very important to say that conversation about cost of tariff is an ongoing one, because you also need to recover to be able to make the sector attractive for investment. You need to recover revenue to be able to invest and improve on the quality of service. You need to recover revenue to meet other overhead costs. Look at gas, for instance. As we speak today, the cost of gas has increased. Gas is denominated in dollars. Where is the market going to get the money from? It's still from the local environment. So that conversation is an ongoing conversation that we cannot remove our mind from at every point in time.
Oyebode, my question to you, I understand the fact that it's an ongoing conversation, and at some point it has to be. But I need to understand, in this conversation, where do your consumers come in? Because whatever it is that is affecting, the AEDC and all its other sister companies also obviously, economically, also affecting your consumers. So are your consumers on this table of discussions from time to time?
Oh, yes. And I mean, there is a specific regulation that before you even effect a major increase in tariff, you need to have a conversation with the customers. And that we have always done. I remember clearly that before the onset of COVID last year, precisely on February 25th, we had an engagement with the media specifically on this matter because it was we were approaching a major review in tariff. We had an engagement with customers, not just the media people alone, to get them to understand, because we see them as a necessary vehicle through which we can convey our information. Even in other parts of our franchise area like Nasarawa, Niger, and Kogi, we engage with the customers. In Abuja here, we engage with the customers. So, and I know that a court of law at a point in time said that any attempt to increase tariff without consultation with the customer is an incomplete process, and as such, that increase is illegal. So we are very, very sensitive to the issue of consultation with the customers when it comes to review of tariff. So if that has not taken place, it therefore means that the claim that there is going to be a tariff increase also has a question mark, because for major tariff increase, you have to consult with the customer. There are two types of increases. There is the major and then there is the minor review. For the major one, you have to consult with the customers. For the minor one, NEC has the power to do that. And in any case, they have the power to do the two anyway, but it's just that for the minor one, that consultation may not be as necessary.
All right. Let's bring in President of the Senior Staff Association of Electricity and Allied Workers here now, Chris Okonkwo. Chris, if you're still there with us, I'll need your reaction to some of the things that Fadipe has said so far. He's talked about the need for a conversation, and that conversation is ongoing, and that for the distribution companies themselves, there are issues within the sector. The variables right now warrant an increase in electricity tariff. Let's get your reaction to that.
All right, seems like we're having difficulty connecting with Chris at this moment. So let's go back to Oyebode. Oyebode, are you still there with us?
Yeah, I'm here with you. Thank you.
All right, Oyebode, I like your explanation as to how AEDC is including consumers in the conversations around tariff hike whenever that is necessary. But as you well know, it's one thing to involve them in that conversation. It's another thing to take their suggestions, opinions, advice, and decisions into making your own final output. At what point or how is it that you include their thoughts and opinions into the process of your decision making?
Again, it's very, very important for us to understand the guiding legal framework for this process. The law did not say at the point of conversation or consultation with the customers, whatever the customers decide is what you will do. What the law says is that consult with them. And that consultation, as I said, is a necessary requirement for any major tariff review. But having said that, NEC, to the best of my knowledge, has not closed its ears to whatever opinion that the customers have expressed. I know clearly that before now, Labour, and I'm happy that Dr. Okonkwo is on this call and is a principal stakeholder in Labour in this country. I know that he has the opportunity to lead the Senior Staff Association of even the power sector, and he has been involved in conversation of this nation. Now, Labour came out to say, no, this increase that you are effecting is rather too high. We need you to review it downwards. And government listened and reviewed it downwards and did not go ahead to increase it by the amount that was initially proposed. So to answer your question straightforwardly, the opinion of the customers always counts when it comes to the issue of review of tariff.
All right, we have Dr. Okonkwo back with us. I mean, Chris Okonkwo is back with us. I'd like you to respond to particularly the last comments made by Oyebode as to how exactly the opinions. I do know that he stated that, the law does not tell them to, implement the decisions of the consumers. However, what is done with their opinion, or what's the point of consulting with them in the first place? Can you take it up from there, please?
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Fadipe is a person familiar to me. Well, I know that tariff matter has always been a major discussion point in the power sector, especially after the transition from public to private. As a matter of fact, it is very contentious. And as he rightly pointed out, we in the labor sector, particularly in the power sector, we have been very, very active in these discussions, particularly from last September when the change in the tariff and the petroleum price came together. Tariffs in Nigeria are contentious. Why? Because fundamentally, the beginning of the structure of tariff is a problem. Because how and where it was borrowed from is still an issue that the labor, both TUC and LLC, are interrogating today. Incidentally, the interrogation has not ended. It started around September last year, and it's still ongoing, only for us to be hearing about changes in tariff. And that is why I'm sure you read in the papers today that labor is warming up for a reaction, and which we think is not necessary because government needs to allow the window of discussions going on to be concluded before making any such move. We're also aware that it is the duty of NAC, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, to approve tariffs, which this goes implement. But we also know that NAC is having issues in terms of, justifying what it does to the public, to labor. And that is why before government panel, headed by the Minister of Labor, Dr. Chris Ngige, we are interrogating this particular problem. Tariff today is questionable. The question of whether the tariff value today is right or wrong is neither here nor there. Why? Because even what is being paid today, the labor is saying is not justifiable. And if it's not justifiable, labor said, let's talk about it. And there's a panel doing it. And that is why we want to caution NAC, caution anybody trying to do this, not to throw the country into tension again. We are already battling with some. It is in the interest of all parties that we engage in discussions and conclude discussions so that at the end of the day, labor can communicate to people or Nigerians what it has found out. Is it justified to go up again or to go down? And in the view of labor, it should really go down because the elements of cost in the tariff today are all questionable. Unfortunately, labor haven't demanded for more facts about it. Is there to get the facts so that it can make meaningful contribution. So the position today is that the tariff has no justification to go up again. Rather, we expect NAC to cooperate with government to make sure we review every component of the structure of tariff to justify it or otherwise. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Okonkwo, I'll still stay with you because you said the element for the increase in the tariff is questionable and is not justifiable at the moment. But Oyebode said something earlier. He said, well, there are variables that are working against them at the moment. For instance, he talked about the price of gas, which has increased. And that automatically means that there are buying power at a rate that is far higher than what it used to be before. Is that not justifiable from their point of view?
It is not, because when you talk about one element, you have to talk about others. For instance, who are the people paying for the electricity tariff? Is it not the public? The same public is also subject to other economic variables that can impact on their ability to pay, or to pay for the tariff if increased. Now, if you talk about gas, Labour is also of the opinion that the price of gas has been applied in the power sector is not fair. There are different values of gas prices. Unfortunately, the one in the power sector is higher than the rest. This is one of the things Labour has found out, which Labour hopes to know why, to conclude it before we know what to do. Now, I talked about the structure. If, for instance, you have, found a formula that you use to calculate tariff that has factored in inflation, factored in forex, factored in everything, and factored in the cost of operation of the discos, gencos, and all the other sector operators. The question is, what are the basics? How did you start to get to that point that you are now saying that you can't go down? Some of them, Labour believes, is not very correct in the sense of being accurate, that they are not, justifiable, and in fact, very inefficient. Very inefficient. Because efficiency is a factor also in profit making. If, for instance, you are supposed to sell electricity, a unit of electricity for 10 naira today, and in the course of the review, you find out that the real cost should be around 8 naira, without tampering with the profit of the discos or gencos or TCN or any other person. Is it not good for everybody? It will be good for everybody, but as it is today, it looks like this particular exercise is being shielded from happening. Labour has been so open to ask. We are ready to open up our minds and engage with government and the sector operators. But as it is today, as I'm talking to you now, that is not being availed. And the question is, if that has not happened, particularly one of the conditions of the sale when it was sold, the companies were sold in 2013, was that the whole exercise will be reviewed in 5 years. As I'm talking to you, these 8 years, such has not happened. And those who included that in the I'll call it contracts, couldn't have been wrong, because they knew that there could be things that would need review, and some operators may even need to go, some may need to be encouraged. So these factors cannot be ignored. Review and fundamental check in the structure of the tariff to be sure that there is no factored inefficiency in the tariff structure that Nigerians are being loaded with. I think that is the place to go, and we encourage government to ensure that this is done for peace and for Labour to be, very, very cooperative with government. There is no need to force things down again, especially when there's an ongoing engagement with Labour, the two levels, highest levels, TUC and LC. Let government prevail on NAC. And in fact, the sector operators to be patient for this to be concluded. In fact, the Secretary to the Federal Government is also part of this committee. And the government side have been very, very cooperative. Incidentally, maybe they are not aware that certain things they authorized should be done are not yet done. And there seems to be a problem with them. And we are using this opportunity to draw the attention that let those things that need to be done be concluded, so that both sides, both government side or rather sector operators and the consumers, we have their interests protected. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chris, I still want to stay with you just a bit longer. I want to ask you, do you think the discos and the gencos have given to the Nigerian people as much as they have received?
It's arguable, but I will say no at this point, and I speak as the president of the Senior Staff Union, who is abreast with so many factors in this matter. I go again to efficiency and delivery of what was undertaken to do. It is not price that determines profit making. If, for instance, the discos have gotten a lot of benefits that are outside their contract, a CBN giving them facilities, at a point it was 213 billion. In fact, as I speak to you now, total interventions in the sector is between 1.5 to 2 trillion naira. And we're talking about those who came to intervene and help government by taking over the assets to make them work better. And as I talk to you now, government is intervening helplessly. I say government is intervening helplessly. Why? Because government inherited this sale and is struggling to make sure it works. And unfortunately, the operators are making this very difficult because it's like holding the government and the people to ransom. As I speak to you now, they hold the government and the people to ransom. They throw so many things and government is struggling to make sure the system does not collapse. So discos and gencos are yet to meet the basic commitments they made from day one. They will tell you, oh, we have not had cost-effective tariff here and there. That is a fallacy. Tariff, and by the way, before they came in, the government operators then had little or no tariff increases, yet they were operating. They had no budget in their operations, yet they were operating. From the low tariff they were using to collect money, and luckily, Mr. Fadipe was in the company at that time. Tariffs were not reviewed as they are being reviewed today. And the companies then, under government, were doing much better. Some of us were also operators. We can still remember our performance records. So they have not shown capacity. They have not shown sincerity. They have not shown, I will call it also patriotism. Patriotism to make power sector work for every Nigerian. All of us are suffering. Nobody is comfortable running generators. Nobody is comfortable staying in darkness. And so whether we like it or not, all of us will still come back to need electricity for everybody. And so I will say for now, they have not shown the sincerity we Nigerians need to see. And then of course the service is not there too. Because if you check the performance before the sale and performance after the sale, is essentially the same or even negative. Thank you.
All right. Let's bring in Oyebode here as again. Oyebode, he has talked about the fact that the distribution companies have not really been forthcoming in terms of what their operational costs and challenges are. I'll take you to the 2020 order on transition to cost-reflective tariffs in the NESI. And under that order, the discos were supposed to submit, or directed actually, was a directive, to submit detailed cost recovery plans, which states their plans for the attainment of full recovery of prudent costs and an allowed return on capital. And these cost recovery plans are to be submitted, were to be submitted in June 2021. Can you confirm whether or not these cost recovery plans were submitted? Because it was tangential to the timelines needed to review the tariffs.
Because it was tangential to the timelines needed to review the tariffs.
Oyebode, can you hear me?
I'm not too sure I got a very clear picture of the question you asked, because the line was... I can hear you, but it's not as clear as it would have been for me to have it.
All right. If you can hear me now, let me just give it to you again.
But I know you were trying to make reference to a 2020 order.
Yes. The order.
Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, I have problem hearing you clearly, so I really don't know what to say, whether it's to a reaction to Dr. Okonkwo's submissions.
Okay.
Or to the question that you raised.
Yes, two things.
Very clearly. So I don't know which one you want me to do now.
Good. Two things. You're going to react to what he said, but as a follow-up to what he said was the fact of lack of openness in terms of operational costs and the challenges by the discos that are supposed to be submitted to the government. I refer to the 2020 order on transition to cost-reflective tariffs as contained in the NACI. And part of the directive given to discos was that they needed to submit detailed cost recovery plans, and which expressly states their plans for attainment of full recovery of prudent costs and an allowed return on investment. And also, these cost recovery plans, were to be submitted on the 30th of June 2021. They were tangential, that's what I said, they were tangential to timelines needed to increase the tariffs. My question to you, Oyebode, is, was that cost-reflective report submitted, cost recovery report submitted to NEC?
Oh, yes. What we call the power improvement plan or performance improvement plan has been submitted to NEC, and NEC has looked at it, and they will continue to look at it to, how do I put it now, drive their decisions in the sector, so that at the end of the day, each disco is treated according to the plan that it has submitted to NEC. I remember very clearly that one of the things that we said concerning how to improve our performance is that we will need about 100 billion on an annual basis to drive our CAPEX investments. But NEC approved for us 75 billion. Which means that that is the amount that we can spend. But we also have a window of opportunity. And what is that window of opportunity? The window of opportunity is that when we can do better in our performance on the basis of what had been approved, then we can come for a further review. Because without the improvement of the CAPEX, or without the improvement of the facilities that you use in providing electricity, there is no way by which the end users can benefit from whatever is being done in the sector. So that improvement plan, in answering your question specifically, has been submitted to NEC, and it is that improvement plan is driving the decision of NEC in terms of what is to be done and what is not to be done in the sector. And whatever I say about AEDC cuts across the entire discourse all over the country, the 11 discourse all over the country. That's exactly the position for now.
All right. Let's have Mr. Okonkwo quickly as we sign off. Do you think that the National Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission is facing pressure from the discos to increase tariff? Could you unmute your device, please?
Chris, can you hear us? Because we cannot make out what you're saying.
I don't know if you're hearing me.
Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Are you hearing me?
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I was saying that. I would say that for now, NAC has not done enough to give confidence to consumers, because most of the time they respond to what the discos or the operators need, particularly this tariff issue. NAC must see itself as the go-between between the operators, the customers, and in fact the government itself. Because government's duty is to make sure the system is working. And NAC, being a product of the law, is supposed to be the anchor for this stability we're talking about. As it is today, most of the time, NAC is responding to what the discourse wants. And unfortunately, that is the impression or the perception outside. And I'm saying it right there that they need to change this narrative and perception, because it is looking like something else is happening that is making them do it. And nobody can confirm this. And of course, it's not easy to confirm such, but that is a perception outside. And it's a challenge for them. I'm sure they have a public affairs unit. They have to get people, Nigerians, to know that they are working. What are they doing? Most of these discourse are defaulting in many things. What is NEC doing? I am aware that many places have power. Power is not available in many places due to broken down equipment. What are the sanctions? What are the reliefs to the customers? And so, where these things are not easily accessible by the customers, and these codes are having easy access to tariff considerations, then it then follows that NAC seems to be on the side of the discourse, and particularly the discourse and also the GENCOs by extension, and of course, other sector operators.
All right, Mr. Okonkwo, I want to say thank you so much for your time with us. Chris Okonkwo is the president of the Senior Staff Association of Electricity and Allied Workers. And to you, Oyebode Fadipe, the General Manager, Corporate Communications of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, wants to say thank you so much for your time with us as well.
Gentlemen,
have a wonderful day.
It's been a pleasure.